Hey, hello again. Well, I'm down in Port Orchard, Washington, just across from Bremerton. There's a big naval base in Bremerton. I can see it across the water there. I'm down here at a little marina. Just pulled off to the side of the road. There's an empty parking lot and a view of some boats. So I wanted to do a quick oil painting. Picked out one. It's a sailboat that's at dock. It's got a neat kind of green color harmony with the green water. It's midday, so the light's pretty flat and very few shadows, but I thought the pattern, the geometric patterns, the lines of the boat looked pretty nice. So let me show you the scene. This is the little boat I want to paint. Hopefully it sticks around long enough for me to get a painting done. It's not the nicest spot. I'm just standing in a empty parking lot. There's a closed restaurant here, so I don't think I'll get kicked out. But I do like the shape of that little boat. I'll do a 9x12, working on a gessoed birch panel. Get it somewhere from about here. I like this view. And zoom in pretty tight on that little boat there. Maybe get a little bit of that shed and the warm gray-red dock next to the boat. So I'll try to knock it out quickly. Here's my setup. Got the Day Tripper by Prolific Painter. Working out nicely so far. Got ivory black, cold gray, titanium white. This is an alkyd white, so it dries quickly. Cerulean blue, cobalt blue, ultramarine blue, sap green. This is transparent oxide brown. I'm trying that instead of the burnt umber. Been noticing with the burnt umber that it likes to dry out and skin over pretty quick. And the transparent oxide brown is something that Richard Schmid and Mark Boedges use, so I thought I'd give it a try instead of the burnt umber. Burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, cad red, cad yellow, that's yellow lemon from Winsor Newton, radiant lemon from Gamblin, and yellow ochre. I have a lot of yellows because I find that helps me to capture a lot of different greens here in the Pacific Northwest. I really like the yellow ochre because it's much more warm, much more vibrant than you would think without tilting it red. Beautiful heron there, flying across the water right in front of us. Here's my 9x12 panel. I've got the 1/3 line sketched in just to help me capture the composition quickly. The turpentine wash, I just want to set the color harmony. It's really pretty soft green harmony, lots of greens in this scene, but they're warm greens, so I think maybe I'll try something a little different here. I will tone the panel with yellow ochre first, and then I'll do the sketch with burnt umber, and then jump into the final colors. Okay, here's just a little bit of artist turpentine, and I've got big bristle brush that I've used before, nice and broken in, nice and soft. It's about 1 inch wide. I'm just going to scrub in a little bit of yellow ochre. Here I'm actually being careful not to scrub away the 1/3 lines. I want to make sure that those stay. Nice boat pulling in there. Alright, now I'll take a small brush, a little rosemary ivory filbert, and just sketch based on the composition I have on my iPhone and the scene in front of me. Just do a quick sketch of the scene. Alright, there's the quick sketch in transparent oxide brown. Now I'm going to take a brush with a little bit of turpentine and just wipe away the lightest lights I see in the scene, like where the light is hitting the mast and where it's hitting the edge of the dock. Alright, now I'll mix up the colors that I'm seeing in the scene. I'll mix up a pool of tannish green for the side of the shed and the side of the boat. They're very close to the same value, although the shed has a little more reflected light from that red dock. So I want to warm that up and lighten it up just a little bit compared to the side of the boat. Put away the artist turpentine and now I'm switching to Gamsol. Even outside I don't want to breathe the turpentine fumes any longer than I have to. Then there's a bluish green, hard to describe color, kind of a very whited, very high key bluish green, just a hint of yellow ochre for the green painted parts of the boat, and that warm tan of the dock, and that's about it. It's really a very close harmony of those colors. There's some green in the top of the shed that has some brown in it, so I'll add a little bit of transparent oxide brown to that. And also in the water, especially close to the dock, there's some brown in the water there as well. Okay, I've got some pools of color mixed up now. Got a dark blue-green and a warm yellow-green in different values mapped out compared to what I'm seeing in the scene. And then I've got some shade colors, dark shadow colors down here where the boat meets the water, where the dock meets the water, at the very edge of that little shed. So I'll take a large brush and just start to map in the big shapes. Alright, I took a step back and I like what I'm seeing so far. I think I need to put a little bit more light and maybe a little more lavender on the prow of the boat, the front of the boat, especially where it's in shadow. That'll, I think, help it to jump forward in the painting. This limited palette's working pretty well. The colors, those pools of color are mainly yellow ochre and cerulean blue, and then I'm just adding a little bit of lavender by adding a little bit of alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue and cerulean blue just to shift things slightly lavender. I think the lavender is playing well against that yellow ochre because they are complementary colors.
your pretty hair. That bonfire gonna leave ya with only burning embers in your hand. Burning embers in your hand. Burning embers in your hand.
Here I'm being careful to use one brush for the shadow and a different brush for the sunlight side, the light side. That's something I'm trying, a tip I picked up from Mark D'Alessio, wonderful oil painter, plein air painter. He does it that way. So I'm trying to just use a couple brushes and trying to keep the colors clean by using one for shadow and one for highlight. Alright, there I don't like how that green on the cables went down. There's like a light green tarp or wrap, or maybe it's the sail material itself all curled up. I can't quite tell, but it isn't quite a hard line. It is kind of rugged like that, but that's a little too much. So I'm just going to take the palette knife and scrape away a little bit. Alright, I took a step back again, and I think all that's missing now is just a few bright highlights right on the boat. So where the sun is hitting the green parts, the rooftop of the little boat and the glass, I'm going to throw just a little bit of higher value there, and also darken that little triangle right above the cab of the boat, and then call it good. I don't want to get too detailed here. I can add a little more detail, clean some things up a little bit more when I get it back to the studio, but I'm kind of liking the energy, especially the energy in the side of the boat and the water in front of the boat. That's reading well. I am painting this with my sunglasses on. There's so much reflected light around, and the sunglasses are amber, so I'm curious what it's going to look like when I get it back to the studio, if it's all going to be cooler than I expected because my sunglasses were warm. Well, here's where it ended up. Quite a bit of backlight. I don't know if you can see it or not. I've adjusted the camera to try to get it to show up. The light on the scene stayed pretty consistent through the afternoon. Beautiful spot. There, I've turned it a little bit more so it's in the light. Well, it was kind of a limited palette experiment, and I like how the color harmony turned out. It'll be interesting to see it in the better studio light to see if it still reads true and without my sunglasses on. Yeah, fun to experiment and definitely fun to get out and spend the afternoon painting. I liked that method that Mark D'Alessio uses, where he uses one brush to put down the shadows and a different brush to put down the lights. That really helped. It kind of helps with the value pattern, helps you maintain the value pattern. I think I'll be developing that. It just takes a little bit of effort to remember which brush you're using, and maybe a little adjustment to the brushes that I bring. Hey, hello again. Well, I've got this little 9x12 back in my studio now and taking a look at it. I want to touch it up just a little bit, apply some finishing touches, just as little as possible to be able to call the painting finished. So I'm taking a look at it, and there are some things I like. I like the overall gray, green, yellow color harmony that really brings back that sunny May day. It was about a month and a half ago, so it's fully dry. I'll scrape it down with a round-edged palette knife just to knock down any ridges, take off any bugs or debris, dust, anything that got stuck in the paint that day. I don't want to gouge into the paint, so I use the round-edged. Don't want the sharp-cornered edge. And then I'll oil it back in with a little bit of liquid. I used liquid that day, which helps it to dry fast. So when I oil back in, I'll just use a little bit of that. Brush it on with a big soft brush, and then wipe off the excess with a little bit of t-shirt cloth. I like the shape of the boat. I think it's pretty close, except this edge here bothers me a little bit. It dips a little too much, so I want to bring it up a little bit. In reality, there was almost a sweep down and then up and back down. That's really pretty. I hinted at it here, but I want to bring it out a little bit more. I want to darken this stripe as well, and maybe add just a little bit of purple to it. In my memory, this was more striking, this point, and is probably one of the most interesting parts of the painting. Will be, if I'm successful, it'll be this sweeping line, I'm not sure what you call this part of the boat, but this railing on the boat. I like the sunny effect here. I don't want to change that. If I touch that up at all, I'll make sure to match those colors. I really like those colors against the shadow colors. I love this lavender shadow and the whole grayish green effect along the hull. So I may not touch this at all, except to maybe add just a little bit of highlight to this little rib that runs along the body of the boat. I want to blue down this water in the background, imply that it's reflecting more of the sky color, and I think that'll push that background water back a bit, especially if I add some ripples, just real subtle soft edge ripples. I want to clean up this roof line a little. Right now it feels like it's sagging. I want to straighten it up. Maybe adjust these lines as well. They're a little too steep. In reality, they're a little more shallow. And then as I do that, I just want to make sure that these perspective lines stay logical. I don't want to lose that idea that the boat is parked along this pier, and the building is sitting on the pier. If these lines start to get out of whack, it'll throw off that illusion. I may darken up the shadows just a little bit here along the base of the pier and add just a little bit of messy, chaotic detail around this gas pump. It looks a little weird. Doesn't quite read like a gas pump at the moment. May enlarge it just a little bit and add a little bit of detail there to make it read more like a pump. And I think that's about it. I'll finish up this bottom edge here. I'll match the colors that I used that day. I may adjust the drawing here a little bit on the boat so that this reads more like a lower floor in the boat with some windows, and add a little bit of chaotic detail right around here, and that'll really bring the eye, I think, to this area, which I want to be the center of interest, right almost smack dab in the center of the painting. So I'll see how that develops. I may want to add a little bit more dark and shadow back here as well to bring the eye back a little bit. It looks like I need to adjust the drawing a little bit here as well. This line is not, this line should be parallel with this line pretty much. It's on the same line of perspective, and right now it's dipping way down. So I may adjust that. That'll give me a chance to add some more light and shadow back here. So I'll have a strong center of interest up here and a secondary center of interest here. That's it. Well, I'll get started by mixing some colors using the same pigments that I used that day on site. I can refer back to the video to make sure I do that, and I can just match the paint against the painting itself. As you paint over dried paint, you want to go just a little bit lighter in value, just the slightest amount lighter, because as the painting dries, especially as you apply more layers, it'll dry darker. So it's just something I've learned over time, how to judge it. It's not a big difference. It's not a big value difference. Just the slightest amount. But if you go just a hair lighter in value, as the paint dries, it'll match better to what you had before. So same color intensity, same hue, but just slightly lighter in value. Alright, as always, thanks for joining me. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe. Here's the finished painting. Little 9x12 oil on birch panel. Well, I did just as little as I could to finish the painting up here in the studio. I corrected the drawing a bit, made this little canopy over the back. Looks like a tarp over a sail or something. I'm not a sailing expert, so I'm not exactly sure what the parts are, but I made that bigger and more along the lines of perspective. I corrected this railing of the boat, the edge of the boat, making that more of the center of interest. I think that's pretty effective now. I've got a nice transition, subtle transition of colors. I liked this lavender stroke I put in on location, so I left that alone and just kind of built around that and using the colors of the day. Wherever I touched the painting up, I made sure to match colors to the painting itself, not to any reference photo. I softened these a bit so they weren't so distracting. They were really leading my eye off the painting, so I didn't want them so strong. I corrected the roof so it didn't feel so saggy and such a downward angle. Again, kind of going off of what the lines of perspective should be. Added a little bit of interest here. Made this look more like a gas pump with some hoses and an electrical outlet. Added a couple little potted plants that were there. Real subtle. I don't want them to jump out and distract too much. I built a little bit on this highlight. Made it stand out just a little bit more, leaving the brush strokes alone as much as I could, but adding a little bit of warmth and some lines showing the cables and ropes. Just in general, I added some cables and ropes throughout to add a little bit of the chaos that was in the scene. Finished up the painting down at the bottom of the edge where I had left it bare. Added some blue to the background, water reflecting the sky and pushing the water back. And brought up the highlight on this little edge bumper rail along the hull of the boat. I like it. Pretty simple little painting. It was a fun day, fun little painting to do. Boats are always a challenge. They require some drawing skill and a lot of concentration. I'll be doing more. I enjoyed it. As always, thanks so much for joining me. If you like these videos, please like and subscribe. If you'd like to support the channel, you can jump over to my Patreon page. For a small donation, you get access to longer videos, more tutorials, more commentary. Also, you can jump over to my website and sign up for my newsletter. I'm going to be doing a drawing for a free painting. I give away a small painting once in a while to my newsletter subscribers. I do a random draw on my newsletter subscriber list. So I'll be doing that soon to celebrate some milestones on YouTube and on Instagram. I really appreciate your support, and I'll see you in the next one.
Don't you get to sleep in? Don't rest your pretty head. A bonfire